Hello everyone, welcome to Storytime with a Princess. I'm not exactly a princess, but I thought we could read a story about my very dear friend. We're going to be reading from Disney's all-time favourite classics, and the story is called Peter Pan. Peter Pan chose to visit the Darling house because there were people there who believed in him. Mrs. Darling believed Peter Pan was the spirit of youth. The boys, John and Michael, believed that Peter Pan was a real person. They made him the hero of all of their games. As for me, their older sister, I was the supreme authority on Peter Pan. I knew everything about him. Even Nana, the nursemaid, believed in Peter. Although, being a dog, she kept her opinion of him to herself. Mr. Darling was the only one who didn't believe. Absolute poppycock, he blurted when anyone mentioned Peter Pan. For Mr. Darling, the last straw came when he discovered the boys had drawn a pirate map on the back of his last clean shirt front and hidden his cufflinks. The boys explained that they had been playing Peter Pan and Captain Hook, and the cufflinks were buried treasure. But Mr. Darling didn't want to hear a word of it. As far as he was concerned, it was all my fault, stuffing the boys with a lot of silly stories, he said. So he decreed that it was time that I had a room of my own. I mean it, young lady. This is your last night in the nursery, he ordered, for everyone's dismay. And since he still had a head full of steam going to the party, he fired the dog from her job as nursemaid too, and tied her up outside. I was troubled by my father's outburst, especially the part where he had told me I was going to have to grow up. But I don't want to grow up, I told my mother. Don't worry about it any more tonight, my mother said. John and Michael were upset too about Nana, Peter Pan, and losing me from the nursery. Don't judge your father too harshly, Mrs. Darling told the children, as she kissed them goodnight. He really loves you very much. Moments after Mr. and Mrs. Darling left for the theatre, Peter Pan hopped through the nursery window. Right behind him was Tinkerbell, although you wouldn't have known it unless you looked very closely, because at the moment she appeared there only as a golden glow. They had come for Peter Pan's shadow. Peter had become separated from it on his last visit to the Darling nursery, and Nana had gotten hold of it. Must be here somewhere, Peter said, looking around the nursery. After some searching, he found it in the drawer where Wendy had put it after she found Nana shroom. So I had put his shadow in the drawer, just to keep it safe. The shadow didn't want to be caught. It flew out of the drawer and made Peter chase it all around the room, thumping into things. The noise woke me up. I knew you would come back, I said to Peter. I just knew what I had to do. With the reluctant shadow, I'd sew it back on, so I got out my sewing kit. Meanwhile, Peter explained how Nana had grabbed his shadow while he was lurking on the window ledge, listening to my stories. My stories? But they're all about you, I cried. Of course, that's why I like them, Peter said. I wasn't too happy to tell Peter the news that I would be leaving the nursery and there would be no more stories. I have to grow up tomorrow. Tonight's my last night in the nursery. I won't have it, Peter cried. Come on, we're going to Neverland. You'll never grow up there. It took only a minute to wake John and Michael. And another few minutes for the Darling children to learn how to fly. It was quite easy to do, really, as long as you had a little bit of Tinkerbell's pixie dust. Then we were on our way to Neverland. The island of Neverland is an extremely long distance from the city of London, or any other city for that matter. But because of the pixie dust, it was no time at all before my brothers and I spotted it in the sea below. Oh, Peter, it's just as I've always dreamed it would be, I cried. From my stories, my brothers already knew that Neverland was home to Peter and his lost boys, as well as a tribe of indigenous people and a number of mermaids. They also knew that Peter's mortal enemy, Captain Hook, kept his pirate ship anchored in the harbour, and there it was down below. None of us were prepared for the welcome we received from the pirates. Look out, cried Peter, as a cannonball came hurtling towards us from the ship's deck. Luckily, my brothers and I had ducked out of the way. Quickly, Tink, take Wendy and the boys to the island, Peter shouted. I'll stay here and draw Hook's fire. Captain Hook and Peter had been enemies practically forever, and as the pirate was concerned, Peter was the cause of all of his misfortunes. He even blamed Peter for the fact that a crocodile followed him around continually. The crocodile had swallowed Hook's left hand a few years ago and had been waiting for another taste of him ever since. Hook had vowed to find Peter Pan's hideout so he could get even. He had sent his pirates to search Mermaid's Lagoon, Cannonball Cove, and anywhere else he had been able to think of. By now the pirates were fed up. They wanted to get back to buccaneering, but Hook wouldn't stop poring over the map, desperately searching for Peter Pan. "I've got it," he finally cried, pointing at the encampment where Tiger Lily lived. She was the chief's daughter, and he knew that she would know where Peter was hiding, so he decided to kidnap her. Tinkerbell flew down towards Neverland, dodging cannonballs. The boys and I followed far behind. "Wait, we can't keep up," I cried. But Tinkerbell thought Peter was paying far too much attention to me, so she flew ahead in the Lost Boys to shoot Wendy down. So Tinkerbell had told the Lost Boys that I was a Wendy bird, and they needed to shoot me down on Peter's orders. Fortunately, I was not hurt, but Peter was furious when he found out what had happened. "You blockheads! I bring you a mother to tell you stories, and you shoot her down." Since Tinkerbell was behind the plot, he charged her with high treason and banished her for a week. Later, John and Michael said that he would like to see some of the indigenous people, and they decided to go visit them later. John and Michael were worried, but the Lost Boys weren't. It was a game, they explained. When we win, we turn them loose, and when they win, they turn us loose. See, the indigenous people often kidnap the Lost Boys, and the Lost Boys kidnap them. But this time, the chief wouldn't let them go. He thought the Lost Boys were the ones who had kidnapped his daughter, and if she wasn't back by sunset, there was going to be trouble. Meanwhile, Peter had taken me to meet some of the mermaids, but the mermaids ignored me completely. Instead, they flirted with Peter and begged him to tell them one of his adventures. Peter started to recount the time he had been surrounded by 50 pirates when I lost my patience. "Oh, Peter!" "Who's she?" one of the mermaids asked. "What's she doing down here? And in her nightdress, too," she remarked, rudely splashing water on my nightie. Other mermaids tried to pull me into the water. I was just about to smack one of them with a seashell when Peter stopped me. "You're just having a little fun, weren't you girls?" "Well, we were only trying to drown her," said the mermaids. "Well, if you think for 1 minute," I started to say, but Peter put his hand over my mouth. He had just noticed Captain Hook and Smee rowing off into the distance towards Skull Rock. They had Tiger Lily with them. Quickly, Peter and I flew off to get a closer look. Captain Hook had a proposal for Tiger Lily, whom he had tied in a place where she would soon be covered by the rising tide. "You tell me the place of Peter Pan's hiding place, and I shall set you free." Tiger Lily was silent. "You'd better talk, my dear, for soon the tide will be in, and then it will be too late." "Stay here, Wendy, and watch the fun," Peter said, leaving me high on a cliff and out of danger. He flew behind a rock and lured Hook away, and was able to imitate a voice of a water spirit. "Beware, Captain Hook, beware!" But Hook was not fooled for long. "Calm down, boy. If you've got a taste for cold steel," he shouted. In response, Peter flew down to the captain and did a little dance on the end of Hook's sword. This was too much for Hook. He sprang into action. In the sword fight that followed, Peter managed to back Hook off the edge of a cliff. The crocodile was waiting below, jaws gaping, Hook almost on top of the water in his effort to reach Smee and the boat. Well, I hope you're enjoying the story. Tomorrow, my friend Pirate Pearil is going to read you the rest. See you then. Bye!